Good morning, everybody. Well, here we are then, final Gazzetta of the season, and you join us in a city, Rome, which once again, last weekend, has discovered itself the capital of calcio. After 18 years of waiting, AS Roma have finally locked up their third title, as we all suspected they might. What a week it's been of celebrations. What a dramatic last weekend of the season 2 it was. And we've got, of course, full story and picks in this morning's Gazzetta, and which we'll also be looking forward, obsessed that we are, to what lies in wait for us next time around. Right now, anyway, with our full lineup for this morning, is Susie Campanale.
Coming up, all the action and reaction from a dramatic final weekend of the season as Roma wrap up Lo Scudetto amid joyous scenes in the capital. We look back through what has been a quite momentous season for Fabio Capello's side. Benito Montorio meets up with the man who has just received the CBE for his services to football, former Juventus legend John Charles. James takes a look through the Italian papers for the last time this season. All that plus we hear from newly appointed Juventus coach Marcello Lippi, who'll be hoping to bring the glory days back to the Bianconeri next season in his second spell at the club.
Thank you, Susie. Well, naturally, our Gazzetta end-of-term report begins with Roma. Last weekend, after 33 rounds of action, 31 of them spent in the lead, the Giallorossi took the field at the Stadio Olimpico against Parma, with the Scudetto in their sights. Now, the disappointing draw the week before against Napoli had meant that both Juve and Lazio were still in with a chance of the title on this final day. However, the Romans knew that if they could secure the win against Parma, the title would be theirs. Naturally, the Stadio Olimpico was packed out for the occasion, with 80,000 Roma fans crammed in, hoping to witness history. And for our highlights of this, a game which brought a new definition to the term team strip, let's join our commentators Joe Jordan and Peter Brackley.
Candela can't thread it on though. Here's Diego Fuser. Well run back by Candela. It's Montella making a burst through the centre. He got his shot away too! Just past the post. Well, he hit it early then, Montella. It was agonisingly near. It's a nerve-wracking afternoon in the capital city. Montella to Tomasi. That's Candela making a burst down the left again. Here is Candela. He's got Montella up with him, letting it run through. It's there! The captain has done it. A breakthrough for Roma. And who better than this man? Roma through and through to deliver.
Well, you've got to hand a lot of credit there to Candela. He's got the opportunity, he hasn't panicked, he's waited and he's laid the ball in the path of that man Totti. And he has rifled it into the back of the net. And really that told calm a few nerves. There's still a long way to go. But that was certainly the breakthrough that Roma were looking for.
Punched away by Antonioli, not with that much conviction, but he's got some distance on it. Antonioli, who fumbled that free kick from Pecchia, which led in Napoli last week. Now Battistuta on the charge. He might go all the way through. Gabriel Battistuta! And then Montella! It's 2-0! And maybe the title is in the bag.
Well, I think it's the first opportunity that they've had. Roma to catch Parma on the break. They push forward there. Parma get caught. Cafu playing that ball into the path of Battistuta, and really was saved by Buffon. And there's that predator following up as he has on many occasions. Montella just finishes it, and really, I know there's a long way to go yet, but really could have taken the title to Rome.
Tomasi. Now Zabina. Lofted up towards Francesco Totti. Now Battistuta, he's got Montella up with him too. Here is Montella! It's there! It's 2 for him, it's 3 for Roma. Or is it? Well, the scoreboard is showing goal, but referee Braschi has ruled it out. It won't stand. Well, that's a mystery to me. It's a mystery to Montella as well. There was no complaint from Parma. Let's see again from the replay here. It's Totti who's come back to collect. Clipped up towards Battistuta, then Montella. Nothing wrong so far. Put away delightfully by Montella. I'm just wondering, over on the far side there, you can see the referee's assistant has his flag up already, so presumably there must have been an earlier offside infringement. Montella, now Batistuta. Is he in on goal here? Batistuta! That's it, that's the moment. That's the title, and Batigol has his reward. And so now does Fabio Capello. A typically brilliant finish from Batistuta to see off Parma and clinch the Italian Serie A championship. Defenders stepping up, but Falsini going all the way here. 3 options in the middle, including Di Vaio, and they've got one back. Surely too late to save the day, but he took it really well. Sensini for Parma. And in fact, referee Braschi has brought play back. And I think we have a pitch invasion. Well, the game isn't over yet. There are still several minutes to play, but hundreds and hundreds of fans are swarming onto the field. This is so unnecessary. They might think it's all over, it isn't. Well, players have lost their clothing. I hope my daughter's not watching now. And these really are ridiculous scenes. And it could be very costly too for Roma. I think that's what's going through Capello's mind now. If they can't finish the game, the points might be taken away from them. And he is getting angrier by the minute. Fabio Capello. Extraordinary scenes, but so frustrating for the coach and indeed for the Roma players. And the fans are getting ready now to celebrate. It's been a fabulous season for Roma, and it's going to end in triumph. There is the final whistle. They have done it. They are the new Serie A champions for the year 2001. Their first Scudetto in 18 years. They are the toast of the Italian league after victory over Parma by 3-1.
Well, that was just the start of the celebrations. Whilst emotional fans set about adding the goalpost to their souvenir collection, inside the locker room, after 8.5 months of hard work, the new champions were letting it all hang out. Beyond the Stadio Olimpico, meanwhile, the city was erupting. Within minutes of the final whistle, Rome came to a standstill, convoys of tifosi taking to the streets and the fountains, streaming towards the centre or anything with a monument they could drive around honking. In this, the worst possible end for Lazio's fans to their year at the top, the city turned quite literally red and yellow. And with over 1 million people taking part, it was a celebration likened in the press here to Rome's liberation back in 1944. Certainly not since Maradona's Napoli won the title in the late 80s has Serie A seen anything like it. This Thursday then, Rome's Campidoglio City Hall was the packed to the rafters scene as the new champions received the official thanks of their city and Rome's mayor Walter Veltroni, who happens to be a Juventus fan, but then nobody's perfect.
Ha mai visto un città esplodere come domenica scorsa?
No, francamente sì, forse Rio de Janeiro o la Parigi che vinse i mondiali e che festeggiò agli Champs-Élysées. Da 18 anni si aspettava questo momento a Roma e quindi è stata un'esplosione però grande nella sua compostezza. Se lei pensa che il giorno dopo monumenti e mura della città erano praticamente intatte, credo che questo sia una prova di amore per la città importante. La Roma ha meritato sul campo questo scudetto dalla prima giornata all'ultimo. Era la squadra più forte del campionato, ha vinto, è stato giusto che fosse così ed è stato bello che fosse così perché da 3 giorni, come lei ha visto a Roma, sono tutti impazziti, vanno in giro con le bandiere, vanno in giro con le magliette, lavorano con le magliette della Roma, insomma non c'è nulla di male che la città si diverta un po'.
Well, amazingly, the climax of this week's celebrations is still to come. Tomorrow night here at the Circus Maximus, where Ben-Hur used to put in his laps, of course, will come Roma's official Scudetto party. They're building the stage for it, indeed, even as I speak. There'll be concerts and, it's promised, that long-awaited striptease by this woman, Sabrina Ferilli, national TV star, Roma fan, and about the only member of their entourage who we didn't see starkers last weekend. So, for really knickers in store then for the lads. Meantime, for those of you of a rather more sensitive disposition, Gazzetta now finishes off part 1 with our own rather more sober tribute to the new champions of Italy.
Celebration tonight. Celebrate. Don't wait too late. No, we don't stop. You can't stop. We're gonna celebrate one more time.
That's it for part 1, but coming up after the break, we'll see how Juventus and Lazio fared last weekend in the battle for second place and automatic Champions League qualification. James will be here with all the week's news, plus Benito Montorio travels to Turin with the Juventus legend, John Charles. See you for all of that in a couple of minutes' time.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, with the Scudetto sorted out, then viewers, time now to start checking out some of the other verdicts this season, beginning with the battle for the wooden spoon. As any self-respecting Cosmo reader can tell you, coming second has its advantages. In Serie A's case, the fact that it means going directly into the Champions League and avoiding thus the potentially disastrous qualifying round, where of course Parma and Inter in the past have messed up. Well, Juve were in second place going into the final round, a point ahead of Lazio. It's Juventus we kick off with at home to Atalanta last Sunday. In your commentary here from Gary Blue.
Here's Igor Tudor. Juve, remember, hoping for their 5th consecutive win. They still have a great chance of the Scudetto. Lovely turn by Zinedine Zidane. What outrageous skill there by the Frenchman. Tudor. And Trezeguet! And another Frenchman scores. Juventus at the front after 6 minutes. They still hope they can lift the title. It's his 14th Serie A goal. He started only 18 top-flight games for Juventus this season. It's quite a record. Tacchinardi, 2-0! And Tacchinardi scores against his former club. They still have an outside chance, little more, of claiming the Scudetto, but they're going to end on a high note here. Maybe Pellizzoli might have done better. The ball seemed to bounce right in front of him. Only seconds left now. The players already have one eye on the tunnel. And here's Marco Nappi who's through. Shakes off Pisotto. Is there a consolation goal here? There is for Atalanta. It's his first Serie A goal of the season for 35-year-old Marco Nappi. And it's now Juve 2, Atalanta 1.
Despite a well-placed Nappi, Juve get number 2 in the table. Know that feeling. Well, on then to Lazio, who last Sunday were finishing off their season against a team with everything to play for, Lecce. Lecce indeed one of 5 sides threatened last weekend by relegation. However, the Southerners knew that a win against the outgoing champions would be enough to save them. Could they get it though? Well, let's find out now with Peter Brackley.
Pacaro. Now Lopez. Showing some good movement for Lazio today. Nedved played it for Crespo. It's Nedved again. Is that a trip? It's a penalty. The referee Salvatore Raccobuto has pointed to the spot. Nedved was upended then. I think it was Valeri who came in with the tackle. Quite sure how much contact there was. This is Crespo with a deft layoff into the path of Nedved. And Valeri just clipped his heels. Hernan Crespo prepares to take the 16th penalty conceded by Lecce this season. It's a Serie A record and he has converted it. Almost on the stroke of half-time, Crespo scores for the 26th time in the Italian league this season. Vugrinets showing good persistence too. He's got Vasari up with him. This is Vasari here. Oh, he scored! It's 1-1. His first goal for the club since his move from Sampdoria in January, and it's a priceless one. Gaetano Vasari. Great work then by Vugrinets to set him up, but still work to be done, and he thumped it past Peruzzi. He's deputising for Lucarelli, who's out through suspension. Oh, Peruzzi save, but Vasari is there! Amazing! 2 goals for him. Would you believe he's only ever scored once in Italy's top flight before today? Now Lecce's hero has come up with a double strike that may well keep them in the Italian top division.
Okay, viewers, well, I hope I'm not spoiling any secrets if I reveal that that game did indeed mean that Lecce will be back with us in Serie A next season too, so well done to them. Now, there'll be more from the league very shortly on this show, but right now it's time for us to check out the papers, and this being our last look at the news choke for the next couple of months, there's a whole bundle of stuff for us to talk about. First up, the passport scandal. Now, the FA's hearings on this matter have now finally concluded. However, whilst last week they were promising a verdict for this Wednesday, they've now put that back until next Monday at the earliest. A shame, because there's an awful lot riding on their decision. Remember, whilst the proposed punishment for the clubs are mild, for the players involved they look positively disastrous. The prosecution indeed calling for 2-year bans from football, which in some cases would be career-ending. Naturally, the response has been furious. It's absurd, indeed, says Alvaro Recoba, one of the players accused. Over at Veron's club Lazio, they're threatening a lawsuit that the FA will never finish paying, confident indeed that a civil case that's currently running too will soon clear their player. As for Ron himself, well, I've been framed, he says. I never asked for an Italian passport and I certainly never used it when they gave me one. I'm proud, he concludes, to be from outside of Europe. Hold the Tory leadership race, I think we found a winner. Well, as we mentioned last week, the proposed move for the Ali G lookalike from Lazio to Manchester United for £25 million or thereabouts is currently on hold while we wait for the length of his eventual ban. However, the feeling is increasingly here that given the threat of litigation, the FA's verdict, when it finally comes, will be of positively feather-esque lightness. Well, meantime, anyway, to item 2 and transfer news. Well, whilst you and I viewers are relaxing by some southern shore this summer, Serie A's clubs will, of course, be working hard on next season. And the biggest development so far on this front is, of course, the news that Lilian Thuram will, after all, be joining Juventus. Given that Juve already have the #1 defence in the league, this means frightening times ahead for Serie A's forwards. Now, the deal went through this Monday, Thuram picking up a rumoured £6 million from Juve under the new terms, whilst £25 million will go to his old club Parma. It's by far Juve's biggest purchase ever, and one that they're expecting to finance with the sale of Pippo Inzaghi for around £23 million to Milan. Confirmation of that deal expected any day now. Incidentally, ironically enough, Thuram was talked into choosing Turin by Carlo Ancelotti, who of course a grateful Juve have now fired. Well, moving along then, on to Zinedine Zidane, and once again this summer there's talk of him leaving Turin. The Spanish press are convinced that Real Madrid will be swooping soon for Zizou, just like they did last summer for another European Player of the Year, Figo. Again, like Figo, there's talk of a £40 million offer, enough to tempt any club you might think. At Juve's press conference this Wednesday, though, their transfer king Luciano Moggi was adamant that the Frenchman is going nowhere.
Il discorso di Zidane credo che non ci sia neppure da dire che Zidane resta, al di là di tutto quello che viene detto in Spagna, che a noi non ci tocca minimamente. Probabilmente sono più procuratori radio e via andare che fanno questa opera per portare Zidane in Spagna, e in Spagna però Zidane non andrà ma resterà in Italia.
Unequivocal stuff, although thinking back, that's more or less what he said about Christian Vieri the day before selling him to Atletico. Well, a quick look then at some other summer moves on the cards. Firstly, Fiorentina have now sold goalkeeper Francesco Toldo to Barcelona, but with their finances still looking about as liquid as the Gobi Desert, another big departure is likely. Either Manuel Rui Costa, Milan or Lazio, the likely destination, or Enrico Chiesa, who after his sensational season is now asking for a hefty raise. Well, secondly, over at freshly crowned champions Roma, question marks hang over the future of Vincenzo Montella and Hidetoshi Nakata. Montella's dissatisfaction with his reserve role is all too well known, thus he's been the target of offers from all over the league. However, Roma's president insists the little aeroplane will end up staying, and just to make sure, he's planning to double his salary to almost £7 million a season. Phew! Much more likely thus to leave the capital is the side's Japanese star Nakata. 24-year-old, keen to get first-team football pre-next year's World Cup, of course, has drawn interest from Arsenal and Manchester United, but, say the Italian papers, his most likely destination is Parma. Well, lastly, from the transfer front, possibly the most exciting item of all, a bid by Brescia for Mr. Paul Ince, an idea this apparently backed by Boots of Buddha himself, Roberto Baggio. Crikey, could the governor soon be seeing action alongside one of the biggest names in the Italian game? Not that that'd be anything new for Paul, of course, after our Emmy-winning turns together. Well, so far the deal is rather up in the air. There are doubts over whether Brescia can really afford Ince, and as for Paul himself, he says, "I'm still not sure what I want to do." Sounds familiar. Well, we're keeping our fingers crossed, but meantime we conclude this morning's mega news roundup with some managerial moves. Lippi at Juventus we'll be hearing about later, but elsewhere Milan this week have confirmed Fatih Terim as their manager for next season. Caretaker coach Cesare Maldini thus goes back to heading the club's talent scouts. Now, Terim, remember, has humiliated the Rossoneri with both his previous two clubs, Galatasaray and, of course, with that 4-0 thrashing by Fiorentina this season. Milan's policy thus, if you can't beat him, get him to join you, signing the Turk to a 2-year deal. With Argentine Hector Cooper now officially joining neighbours Inter, the two Milanese sides will thus be in foreign hands for next season. Still, word is that at Milan at least, a rocky start will not be tolerated, as the Rossoneri already have a backup up their sleeves in case of emergency, Carlo Ancelotti. And again, what ample sleeves they must be. Well, it's certainly shaping up to be a fascinating tournament next time around. It'll be interesting to see what else comes up over the summer. But right now, viewers, we must return to the final weekend of this championship. Coming up now, Peter Brackley with two more games, Inter against Bologna and Brescia against Bari.
Under Carlo Mazzoni, Brescia produced their best ever season in the top flight. Despite going behind to an early strike from Paolo Poggi, the home team fought back to end the campaign in the top half of the table, after stretching their unbeaten run to 11 games. Poggi had put Bari ahead after just 9 minutes, but Brescia equalised almost immediately. Diana's centre was headed home by their Albanian striker, Elitare. Soon after, Bacchini set up Roberto Baggio, whose 10 goals in the second half of the season inspired Brescia's revival. They'd looked down and out before his return to full fitness. And when Brescia did make it 2-1, it was a carbon copy of their first goal. Tare again converted across from Diana. With his 2 headers, Tare managed to double his Serie A tally after his arrival from the Bundesliga back in January. And he really should have ended this game with a hat-trick. The chance laid on by Baggio, but the former Kaiserslautern forward couldn't believe it himself when he missed. Eventually, Dario Hübner put the seal on a 3-1 victory on what was probably his last appearance for the club. The 34-year-old looks to be on his way out, despite scoring 17 Serie A goals this season. A fierce hailstorm then halted proceedings for around 7 minutes. Nothing changed once play resumed, as relegated Bari succumbed to another Brescia win inspired by this man. Less than 1,000 fans turned out for this fixture played on neutral ground in Bari. This was Marco Tardelli's last game in charge of Inter before the expected arrival of Hector Cooper from Valencia. Christian Vieri, who wasted 2 early chances, was perhaps making his farewell appearance for the Nerazzurri. The word is he could be heading back to Juventus next season. As for Francesco Guidolin's Bologna, they ended their campaign with a disappointing run of 7 games without a win, and they came unstuck against Inter too. Clarence Seedorf opened the scoring 10 minutes before the break. Under Tardelli, the Dutchman started just over a dozen league games this season and claimed only 2 goals. Meantime, Vieri and Recoba amassed almost 30 between them in Serie A. They combined superbly here as Inter went into the half-time break with a 2-0 lead. Despite his fitness problems, Vieri ended up with an impressive tally of 18 goals in the top flight. A drab second half produced very little other than Cipriani's consolation goal for Bologna. After such a turbulent season, at least this win ensured Inter finished above their city rivals Milan, who are leading the chase for this young man, incidentally.
Well, there'll be more from the league and in particular the relegation battle coming up in part 3 of this morning's show. Right now, though, it's time to join our man with the wobbly tripod, Benito Montorio, who has a rather special story from Turin.
Juventus fans have always worshipped their superstars. In the 70s it was Bettiga, in the 80s it was Platini, in the 90s Baggio, and today it's the likes of Zidane and Del Piero. However, none of these are regarded in quite the same way as a certain Welshman who came to Turin back in 1957.
It came as no surprise last week when John Charles featured on the Queen's Honours list. His transfer from Leeds to Juventus in the 50s made him the world's costliest player, and he's worth every penny. Even today, he's regarded as Britain's best ever export.
At that age, at that time, John was the hero, he was the big man, and he was probably the first real superstar.
Maybe I was surprised how big of a name he was, and he actually came out to Juventus to see me when I was out there, and actually when it was there, like, you've seen all the supporters, even walking through Turin, you know, it was John Charles, and this is the king, really, you know, this is like, no, John Charles, I weren't really bothered about who I was, it was just more of a look at John Charles, and they all just like wanted to go and shake his hand.
My first day in Juventus was 1960, and Charles was already there, and I was a ball boy. My dream, of course, was try to be like John Charles.
John è un personaggio mitologico, sì. In realtà non è stato un calciatore normale, è stato un calciatore straordinario.
Sì, era chiamato il buon gigante.
Sì, il gigante buono, ma anche di più, anche di più.
Well, in celebration of his CBE last weekend, John and his wife Glenda went back to Turin for Juve's last game. At 69 and in furling health, it was always going to be a very special weekend.
Which way? That way? But you don't follow the step.
John has been diagnosed as early Alzheimer's, so he's not really aware of the. He knows that he's got cancer or he's had cancer,
yeah.
But he's not really aware of you know what's going on because of the Alzheimer's. I don't know. Sometimes I think it might be the last time. I might be wrong, but.
What, that he comes?
He comes back to Italy.
It's a bit dirty, that.
Is this where you used to come out then?
Yes. This is where we used to come out, and this is where we used to run onto the pitch.
You scored a few goals in that goal, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I don't think the goalposts will be the same though. I think they've changed them. It's amazing. I never thought I would come back here actually. You know, I had a great life really. All the places that I've been, you know, that started off at Swansea and then went to Leeds. You know, and I was happy in Leeds, and all of a sudden some club called Juventus wanted to sign me, so they sold me over here. And to tell the truth, it was great here. The years I had here, it was great, yeah.
How elegant you are, Charles. John, how are you?
All right. And you?
Fantastic to see you. I remember the first match he played here was a friendly match in Bologna, and Juventus lost 7-0.
Yes, yes.
So at a certain moment, I said, damn, we made a stupid thing in playing those two, and then we won the championship. So the first thing was 7-0 we lost.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
You
I remember that. Yes,
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah. But everything's changed after that.
Yeah.
When the league started, it was a different matter.
In 5 years, John and a team containing Gianpiero Boniperti and Omar Sivori won 3 Scudettos and 2 Coppa Italias. And whilst 40 years may have passed, John is still a hero here in Turin.
John Charles, indimenticato campione, saluta la curva sud e la curva nord in rappresentanza di tutti i tifosi bianconeri.
How you feeling, John? I'm crying. I'm crying.
The wonderful thing about this life is that memories are everything.
Well, that's John Charles for you, a fantastic footballer in his day, but more importantly, a great man. Anyway, that's where we'll have to leave John and Turin for now, because it's time to go over to Susie Campanale with what's coming up after the break.
Coming up in a couple of minutes, we focus on the battle for Serie A survival. Plus, we hear from new Juventus coach Marcello Lippi and his plans for next season. Join us again after the break.
Welcome back, viewers. Now for this, the Big Sniff final part of Gazzetta for this summer, I'm now up in Turin, where big changes are underway at this season's runners-up Juventus. But more of that very shortly. Right now, viewers, the relegation battle, to be or indeed not to be. As with Lecce now confirmed as staying in Serie A, we ask which 3 teams will be joining Bari down in the 2nd division. Here with most of the answers, Gary and Peter.
Eddie Reya knew only a victory could help Vicenza avoid an immediate return to Italy's 2nd division. And things looked promising for Biancorossi when Callon struck in only the 2nd minute. Vicenza hadn't won in Udine for almost 40 years, but they soon extended their lead. Callon earned himself a penalty following this challenge from Andrea Sottil. It looked a harsh decision though by the referee. Callon was certainly looking to go down. Still, the match officials sided with Vicenza's young striker, who took the spot kick himself, and he coolly beat Luigi Turci. Udinese played as though their season had already come to an end, having preserved their top-flight status the previous week. Lamberto Zauli took full advantage of the space left open to him as the visitors went 3-0 up inside the first 20 minutes. At this stage, due to scores elsewhere, Vicenza was safe, but things rapidly began to deteriorate for Reya's men. Udinese pulled 2 goals back before the half-time whistle. Muzzi superbly carved out an opening for Roberto Sosa, and the Argentine hit the target again moments later to increase his tally to 15 Serie A goals for the season. Muzzi was again involved, only this time it was Manfredini who supplied the scoring pass for Udinese's leading marksman. Suddenly, Reya's brave side were in danger of losing a lead that had looked so comfortable. More importantly, news that Lecce, Verona and Reggina had all gone in front in their respective games meant Vicenza were now heading for Serie B. Indeed, that's how it turned out. Even though they survived a late scare when the home team saw an equaliser ruled out for offside, Vicenza's victory counted for nothing. Just 2 wins in the last 2 months of the season proved their undoing in the end. Udinese, meantime, finished their disappointing campaign amid heated protest after a disallowed goal that had no bearing on their final league position.
Edmundo returned to his former club, hoping to lead Napoli to the victory they needed to stand any chance of avoiding the drop. But the visitors' best effort in a tight first half came from Argentine international Claudio Hussein, who'd never scored in Serie A. At the other end, Fiorentina threatened to take the lead through Mauro Bressan. Franco Mancini kept Mondonico's struggling team on level terms going into the break, and within 3 minutes of the restart, Nicola Amoruso put them ahead. He struck for the 10th time this season, with 4 of those goals coming in Napoli's last 5 games. The Neapolitans held on to their lead for most of the second half, but Nuno Gomes equalised with a superb effort just 8 minutes from time. The Portuguese international added to the goal which had won the Italian Cup for Fiorentina 4 days earlier against Parma. At this stage, news had filtered through that results from other grounds had gone against the Azzurri, and even though Edmundo did come good eventually, his winner in stoppage time failed to stop Napoli from dropping down to Serie B after just 1 season back in the top flight.
This game produced Verona's biggest crowd of the season. 30,000 home fans backed Perotti's team at the Bentegodi Stadium in what turned out to be an explosive contest. Verona started with a flourish. Mazzantini's outstanding save denied Adrian Mutu an early goal. But Mazzantini then produced what must go down as the worst goalkeeping error of the season. Given his recent displays, it was totally out of character for the former Inter man. Anthony Seric was simply gifted his first ever Serie A goal. Thanks to the Croatian international, or perhaps more so to the Perugia goalkeeper, Verona had the lead midway through the first half. Without warning, the game suddenly boiled over. Fueled by Materazzi's treatment of Mutu, the two teams, for a short spell anyway, seemed to lose their heads. The visitors' defender escaped with a caution, but Apolloni and Liverani weren't so lucky, and they both saw red. Apolloni was sent off for the 5th time this season, and that is a new Serie A record. After a lull, the game came back to life again early in the second half, after Giovanni Tedesco levelled the scores. Verona had to win this match to keep their survival hopes alive. The fact that Mazzantini managed to rediscover his best form late on didn't help their cause. Salvetti was the player kept out there. But even though Perugia's goalkeeper produced another miraculous save soon after, Salvetti converted the rebound to secure maximum points. It was a strike which at the time meant Verona had avoided the drop, but once they learned of the scoreline in Reggio Calabria, they knew their victory here wasn't enough and that they would have to face a relegation playoff.
The visit of Milan attracted a capacity crowd at the Granillo Stadium. The home side even had their own special cheerleader sitting on the bench, Reggina president Pasquale Forti. But his team made a tentative start, and with Andrei Shevchenko looking to top the scorers charts for the 2nd year running, Milan came close to going in front on more than one occasion. Ultimately, though, he failed to get ahead of Serie A's top marksman Hernan Crespo. But after surviving the threat posed by the Ukrainian, Reggina were then undone by his former Dynamo Kiev teammate Kaladze, who surprisingly put the Rossoneri in front. There were only 20 minutes left on the clock when the Georgians struck. It was Reggina's cue to produce their very best. Paulo Costa came so close to an equaliser. The home side desperately needed a quick goal, and they piled forward. Like his Portuguese teammate moments earlier, Dionigi was kept out by the woodwork. But their relentless pressure eventually paid off. Here Milan's defenders failed to clear their lines, and Morabito was on hand to level the scores. He'd never previously hit the target in Serie A. It still wasn't enough though, unless they could find another goal. Reggina were on their way down. Enter Paolo Costa, who took full advantage of Coco's blunder here to make it 2-1. He, like Morabito, scored in the Italian top flight for the very first time. Remember, Reggina looked certainties for relegation 2 months ago, and even if this win failed to guarantee their survival, it at least earned them the right to face Verona in a relegation playoff.
Well, there'll be more on the first leg of that Verona-Reggina showdown very shortly. Right now, though, with our Gazzetta season almost done, we can confirm for you the results of 2 recent competitions. First off, the May Goal of the Month. After much humming and hawing, our jury of top football experts pumped for this spectacular effort by Vincent Candelar of Roma, of course, against Bari. And the lucky viewer who picks up a trip for 2 to a top Italian match is Mr. Gary Sklevin of Montrose, Scotland. Excellent. Well, on then, thank you, to the big one, viewers, Player of the Season. Stiff competition here, but your votes went to another Roma player, the man who indeed captained the Giallorossi to the championship, Francesco Totti, who narrowly beat Gabriel Battistuta. Naturally, Francesco was more than delighted with his new title of Channel 4 Player of the Season.
Sono contento per me stesso soprattutto, ma per la gente che mi sta vicino perché mi ha sempre aiutato.
All right, he was talking about the Scudetto, but use your imagination, why don't you? John Thompson, by the way, of East Yorkshire, the lucky viewer who in this case picked up the holiday for 2 to a top Serie A encounter. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's rejoin Susie now on Gazzetta to find out the final word on these Serie A standings and indeed Thursday night's relegation playoff.
As we saw earlier, Roma's win over Parma saw the Giallorossi earn their first Scudetto in 18 years. Elsewhere, Juventus earned the second automatic place for next season's Champions League, meaning Lazio and Parma will be forced to qualify in August. Inter and Milan will be Italy's representatives in the UEFA Cup, where Brescia will hope to join them, assuming they get through the Intertoto Cup, after Atalanta withdrew from that competition. At the bottom, Vicenza and Napoli are relegated after just 1 season back in the top flight, and will join Bari in Serie B next season. Meantime, Lecce are safe due to their superior record against these 2 teams. The final relegation place will be decided on Sunday after the playoff between Reggina and Verona has been concluded. Verona lead 1-0 from Thursday's first leg at the Bentagodi Stadium. You'll be able to find out the result of the second leg on our new look website at www.channel4.com on Sunday evening. Meanwhile, in the scorers charts, Hernan Crespo's penalty in Lecce helped the Argentinian to win the Capocannoniere crown in his debut season for Lazio, ahead of last year's winner Andrei Shevchenko. Meantime, both Gabriel Battistuta and Christian Vieri were on target on the final weekend. No Juventus players on that list, and that's something the new coach, Marcello Lippi, will be keen to improve upon next season. This week, James travelled to Turin as Juve unveiled the man they hope will recreate the magic of the mid-90s.
Thank you, Susie. Now, this year's title race may have only just concluded, but as we've seen, there's already plenty of work going on around Italy on next year's Championship Challenge. Without doubt, the biggest story so far comes here in Turin, Juventus ditching poor old Carlo Ancelotti in order to bring back their former hero, Marcello Lippi. It is a controversial move for a variety of reasons. First, Lippi walked out on Juventus back in February 1999 after a bitter rift with both the team's directors and players. His one experience since then at Inter saw him fired in the first week of this season. Secondly, Ancelotti's dismissal comes despite Juve finishing a close second this year to record-breaking Roma. Indeed, when his dismissal was decided, Juve was still in the title race. And thirdly, above all, there's the fact that just this spring, Juve signed Ancelotti to a new contract extension, only to now tear it up 3 months later.
Almeno noi non ci aspettiamo certamente che le nostre decisioni siano completamente accettate da tutti, però ne accettiamo la critica con cui ci vogliamo confrontare poi in sede di bilancio magari alla fine per vedere se le critiche erano giuste oppure se la nostra scelta era giusta.
Forse più strano che la Juve abbia addirittura riconfermato Ancelotti, già non so, solo 3 mesi fa.
Il calcio è uno sport in movimento, la vita è in movimento, quindi quello che oggi può sembrare giusto o corretto può dopo essere ripensato. Come dico, nessuno è infallibile, nessuno vede o è sicuro di quello che il futuro porta o dirà, e quindi abbiamo preso una decisione che poi onestamente abbiamo pensato fosse giusto cambiare.
Ancelotti's reaction, viewers? Well, this week the by now ex-coach was as composed as ever.
Difficile da accettare, comunque sia rimane anche il fatto di aver passato 2 anni
in perfetta sintonia con tutti i rappresentanti della società, con la famiglia Agnelli, con Moggi, Giraudo e Bettea, con tutta la squadra, i giocatori, soprattutto nell'ultimo periodo mi sono stati molto vicini e devo ringraziarli per tutto quello che loro hanno fatto in questi 2 anni, perché loro penso che hanno fatto tutto quello che potevano.
Ancelotti now water under the bridge then for Juventus, but don't feel too bad for Carlo. His contract will run still until next summer unless he signs for somebody else, and given that it was famously a team performance-based deal, the better that the team now do under his successor Lippi, the more money Carlo himself will get. Curious, no? On anyway to the man on whom Carlo's fortunes depend. A press conference worthy of Oscar night was organised this Wednesday to salute Lippi, a man, let's recall, whose track record in Turin last time around was the stuff of legends. In 4.5 years, 9 trophies, including 3 Scudettos. Canned and, by his own admission, more serene this time around. How did he feel to be back?
Sono molto felice di questo ritorno. Più che felice, sono orgoglioso del fatto che dopo essere stato 5 anni nella Juventus, negli anni passati, e dopo essere andato via per i motivi che tutti conoscete, non è il caso di stare a ricordare, e essere stato richiamato alla guida di questa squadra è una cosa che mi inorgoglisce molto. Allenare una grande squadra significa, oggi specialmente, significa vincere. La testimonianza di questo mi sembra che sia che quest'anno delle squadre di vertice praticamente quasi tutti gli allenatori a decisione di Capello sono stati cambiati. Il fatto di poterle affrontare queste difficoltà in una società, con una squadra che io insomma amo in maniera particolare, e questo è una spinta maggiore per cercare di conseguire dei risultati.
After so many trophies last time around, Lippi certainly has a tough record to live up to. Still, at Juve he finds a fearsome side already in place. Second in scoring this season, owners of Italy's #1 defence, which they've now strengthened still further with, of course, Lilian Thuram. There's one major headache in the shape of Edgar Davids, who's now preparing to serve a possible 16-month ban for doping. Still, while Juve search for his substitute, Lippi otherwise insists that they're already title material.
Qua ci sono dei campioni, qualche cosa sarà fatto, ma non credo che sia determinante fare tantissimi cambi, cioè fare una rivoluzione vera e propria, non credo proprio che sia necessario. È stata una cosa talmente grande, talmente forte, talmente intensa, che certamente voi sapete benissimo che chi vince tanto non è che risulti tanto simpatico, no? Diciamo che in questi 2 anni sia la Juventus che Marcello Lippi si sono spurgati da tutto questo. Io l'ho fatto da un'altra parte, non vincendo niente intendo, la Juventus l'ha fatto qua e adesso siamo pronti a ripartire per cercare di rivincere.
Well, back to the future then for Marcello Lippi and Juventus. Will it be the start of a new golden era for the club? We'll start finding out in a couple of months' time. Meanwhile, that brings us to the end of this morning's Gazzetta, and thus too this season of Saturday morning shows, believe it or not. It's been a bittersweet 9 months all in all. On one hand, there have been the scandals, the doping, the match fixing, the false passports, the Channel 4 scheduling. But on the other hand, there have been the good times too. Some incredible action and a title race that I'll warrant we won't be forgetting for many a year to come. The new championship starts on August the 26th. We'll be there. Hopefully you will be too. So in the meantime, from all of us here, it just remains for me to say thanks for tuning in through it all. Buone vacanze, and you guessed it, arrivederci.